Hello, this is Laren with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. We are a gaming community that uses Discord quite often to run games and to communicate. Some of the things that you will want to know as a beginner or casual or new user, I'll cover those. I'm not going to cover how to set up your own server. This is mostly just for using the application for an existing community. So first things first, you want to navigate to the Discord website. You have some options here. You can decide to download it and install it on your computer or your device, or you can run it out of the browser. My only caveat with this is if you use it in the browser, you are likely to have issues with audio or sound. If you're only going to use text, then that will work fine. If you want to use audio, voice, and all the other fancy features, it is better to use the application. I am almost certain that it is for Unix and at least Macs, and it also has a Windows download. So there is that. It does have a subscription. I'm not going to go into that, but if you want to subscribe to it, it gives you some extra features. I don't know if it would be worth it unless you run your own Discord server. Nonetheless, there is an application that you can install on your phone. One caution of that is if you put it on your phone, it might get rather annoying with all the pings and messages. So if you're not someone who's used to that or you don't really like that sort of thing, do not put it on your cell phone. Keep it on your computer. That way you can walk away from it when you need to. So the next thing is I'm going to actually go to my browser or the community Discord server. And in this case, this is the one that we've created for our gaming community. Generally, you have a code of conduct, maybe an announcement channel, and you'll have some other things that you'll have to potentially agree to or click on. There's some servers that require you to read the codes of conduct. And then once you've done that, supposedly, you would click on an icon or on a symbol, and it will take you and open up the rest of the Discord server. We don't have that instilled in our community. This server has been up for almost 5 years now. We don't have very many problems, but if you have a community where there's a lot of in and out traffic, that might be something that you'll notice. So generally, the rules are just simple. They're mostly self-explanatory. They're fairly common. So the things that I really want to cover for your initial experience is when you first open up a Discord server, once you join it, you'll be presented on the very far left with all the different servers that you're connected to. So when you click on an actual server, you're actually going to view that server, and then you're going to be highlighted on whatever channel that you were last in or that you select through clicking on one of the different channels. So that's basically how you change the channel. You just come through here and you just go down the list, and that's how you can navigate through the different channels. Now, if it gets overwhelming or you don't like the amount of scrolling that you have, I would like you to try to go ahead and make a note that you can collapse some of these categories, especially if you don't think you'll be needing them or you don't want to read them. And you can also right click and you can mute individual channels for notifications. So if you don't want anything from this particular section, you can right click on a group. Let's say you don't want anything from this channel or a group. You can right click on it, go to notifications. You can click nothing or only mentions. So you can customize your experience just by right-clicking on a channel and deciding whether or not if you want to mute it or if you want no notifications from that particular channel. So you can customize how things are presented to you and how that they are basically set up to give you information based off the server that you're subscribed to. So that's one way to cut down a lot of the annoying different things that can happen using Discord. The other thing is the audio and some of the notifications can also be turned off in the interface. So if you go down to the bottom where your Discord account will be showing down the bottom left, and all the way across next to the speaker is your user settings. You have a mute button and you have a deafen So if you are talking to someone, you don't want to hear Discord, you can click the headphones, or if you simply want to mute yourself so people can't hear outside noises from your home or wherever you're at, that's a good thing to do. Now, in the user settings, if you click on that, there are just really a couple things that you need to keep in mind. So if you want to, for instance, go to your voice and video settings, and this is where you would put the input and output device based off of what you have connected to your computer. Sometimes when Discord or Windows updates, these will end up going back to default. At that time, you'll have to change those back, or you're going to lose your voice input and your ability to hear things. So make sure that your input and output device are selected if you're having trouble with audio. And then you can adjust the input and output volume. You can test your mic. Now, the input mode is kind of a thing where you can decide how you want your voice to come through depending on what's happening. So if your community requires push-to-talk, they can set up the rooms where you actually have to have that setting on, or it can just be based on your voice activity. It's better to do push-to-talk and then assign a shortcut key for it, and you must hold it down before you talk, and then you release it when you're done. This helps keep out the background noise because most people don't want to hear you eating or hear your family yelling or things like that. So that's a very important etiquette thing to consider when you join a Discord community. A lot of people say, I don't want to do it. I keep forgetting which button it is. Well, you need to have some form of mute. So if you can mute your mic in line or use the mute button on the actual interface, that's fine. But if you just want to have a button assigned where you can mute yourself as needed, you can do that too. So if you don't have the button pushed, it's muted the whole time. But you have to remember to push down the key that you assigned. In my case, it's the right control key. Now, which key to use is up to you. I wouldn't use a letter key. I would use one of the other keys that doesn't have a function that you're going to activate or some sort of important feature that might start when you use it. And then you have webcam settings. So if you want to use a webcam for like video conferences, you can set that up if you want. So there are all kinds of things that you want to consider when you're using Fantasy Grounds or a video game or any other type of community where you need to use your voice. You want to make sure that you have push to talk if possible. The next thing I wanted to talk about are notifications. So if you come down here, you can turn off the desktop notifications so you don't get the little red icons. You can disable the unread message badge, so that's another notification. I have the flashing bar on, which just doesn't seem to bother me as much. And then you can have your push notification inactivity timeout. So I have mine set to 8 minutes. So Discord will avoid sending push notifications to your mobile device when you are at your computer. So if you have it on both devices, that's what this is for. And then you have text-to-speech options here. And then you have all these sounds. And I don't really know if you need notifications for all this stuff. But it is something you can opt out of. So if you don't want, any of these types of recommendation emails or social emails or anything like that, you can turn those off. The other ones are the functions, like if a stream stops or if a viewer joins or someone's been invited to speak or mute or even push to talk, you can activate and deactivate, have all those sounds going. I turn all those off because I don't want to hear all the little bleeps and blips. The only thing I have is the outgoing ring and the incoming ring when someone's trying to call you through Discord, because you can place a Discord call. So those are the only two that I have active. All the other stuff I have that turned off. It drives me absolutely bananas. So these are just ways to optimize the Discord so that you're not going crazy when you're using it, and it will drive you nuts if you're not used to it. The next thing is in a given channel, you have permissions set up for certain people that can have access to the server. So if you're not the admin and you're a newer user or somebody that's not a part of the community fully, you probably will have a lesser role, which means you won't have access to all the different areas. And most of those are just admin-based things and those sort of things. So that's one of the things you'll notice is you won't be able to do certain things depending on the settings, like posting pictures and links. It's a good idea not to do that, to spam memes and personal links and gifs and all, or gifs or whatever, all those different things, because some communities don't like that, and it ends up becoming like a spam thing, and they might actually have a designated channel for that sort of thing. So just kind of keep an eye on the rules for their codes of conduct. Such as here, we have spam and misuse of channels. It says, please don't spam, keep on topic, please use the channels correctly. Flooding the channels with memes, unsolicited links, lines of repetitive emotes, and unapproved ads are an example of spam. So you want to make sure you respect the rules of the server. And the reason those are in place is so that the channels don't get flooded with a bunch of unnecessary content. And then the other thing is they might have a channel specific for that type of thing. Like, for instance, one of our features for this community that we have, if you are a patron subscriber, you have access to the meme battle room, which is a kind of a small perk. So if you are someone that subscribes to our Discord, there is a channel for memes. So you can post these without without people yelling at you for it. So there's time and place for everything in a lot of these communities. Now, if it's your own server, whatever, you do whatever you want. But when you're in someone else's territory, you need to make sure you respect the rules, and also use push to talk if you're going to use voice application, that sort of thing. Now, the other thing is some of the actual features that you can right click on. So if you right click on anyone's name in a given chat area, you can search for them, and you can try to request to add them as a friend if it's someone that you know or you want to talk to again. That doesn't mean they're going to go for it, but at least you kind of have an idea. The right click menu, you can mention them, you can message them, you can call them, you can add notes. You can't change their nickname. I'm the admin, so that's the only reason I have that. You can change your own, but not theirs. You can also block someone if they're giving you a hard time. If you're an admin, you can give them a specific role. You can ban them, kick them, whatever. But if you're just a casual user and a new user, you probably won't have that functionality unless you have your own server. So the other thing you can do is, if you get a message, there is another, if you click on the top left corner of the actual Discord, you'll get a series of different links here, or direct messages from different people. So you might be part of a discussion group. You might actually be talking to somebody privately in the background. So it's just kind of a nice thing that you can do to have your own private conversations without actually posting it in public area. So you can have a private conversation. Some people, they would basically post things in their own server. They don't really need to go into a private one. But if you get a private message, it'll show up here in this top left corner. If you click on that, that'll take you to your direct messages. You can also start a conference call. If you have friends, you can add them to a private call and have like 4 or 5 participating members. And then also you can add other people if they're friends with you. Make sure that they know that being added. That's kind of rude not to tell them. There's pinned messages in a lot of the servers. So if you go to, for instance, in our group, we have the general chat. So if you come up here to where the pins are, on the cell phone, it's a little different. You have to go to another side menu. But in this case, on the computer, you can go to pin messages, and it will go to this drop down where there might be older messages that were pinned before that might actually have some of the content that you would normally have to scroll all the way back and find. So if there's important links that the admins and the people that are in that server think that's important, they'll have basically they'll have this pinned in whatever channel. So that's a general chat. And then there's Ask the Experts. That's another place. We'll pin messages depending on what they cover. And this content will be available for anyone that is part of the server. They can go back and read that, so they don't have to scroll through all the different various channels looking for something. You can search, but you have to have an accurate search here. You can search for a user, but you have to put at so-and-so, and then you have this criteria, and then you have different ways of searching for things, but you really have to know what you're searching for in order to get some decent results. And then you have to wade through, the amount of posts that have that particular thing mentioned. So you can search. Let's see, what else do we have? You can show the members that are that are online right now, that are active. There's different roles mentioned here, and then there's a bunch of different people that are members. They may or may not be active in this server, but they're on Discord. You can also change your status. So on the very bottom left, if you click on your own category, you can set whether you're online. So I'm going to change mine to idle because I am around, but I'm not on full time. You can also set a custom status where you're actually going to say what you're doing. You can set up, when you want it to expire, and then there's your status. So that's a way that you can kind of say, don't bother me, or you can hide. You can actually go into stealth mode where you're online, but no one will know it. So you can go into this invisible mode. So it's just a matter of your privacy in that case and what you want to do. So if you're in a public server and you don't want a bunch of people pinging you and bothering you, you can go in invisible and just kind of read through the channels. So the basics are just to learn the right-click menus. And then for all the channels, if you're in a complicated server such as ours, we have quite a few things here. You can actually collapse the channels that you don't need to look at or that you don't care about. And that will clean this up quite a bit. So if you look at this, I've actually collapsed this quite a bit. So if you only need the important information section, the commons area, that's pretty much, all you need to expand, and it really cuts down on the amount of scrolling that you do. When you post something in the chat, and if you want it to stay, you're probably going to have to ask someone to pin it for you, because once you pin this stuff, after about 2 hours or less, even if it's a busier server, that's going to scroll away and no one's going to see it unless they themselves scroll back. So just depends on what you're trying to post. If you want something permanent, you're going to have to ask the admin or set it up yourself. And then the channel permissions have to be set to read only so that people can't just come in and comment on it. And, so Discord's not a very good content server. It's better to use like a website or something, but you can do channels that are static if you're like the admins or something. But I'm not going to go into that, but just let you know there are some rooms where you cannot respond. You can only click on links or read, and those are set up intentionally so that they don't get corrupted. So like, for instance, our announcements channel, only the admin can use this channel. Anyone else is going to have to basically they're going to have to just read, or they might have the ability to respond with a little emoji icon or something like that. But other than that, there's no quick way to do that. So this is just a kind of a rough idea of what you can expect with Discord. Just remember the right-click function. So if you want to mention somebody or tag them or read about them, you can right-click on their name. You can go to their profile and read about who that person is. You can see if they're on any mutual servers or if they have any mutual friends, that sort of thing. You can send them a message from there. But basically, when you're in someone's Discord, it's great to have this so that you guys can communicate, and also to post questions for help or whatever it might be. It might be something that that you need to say, but generally try to keep it PG-13. That's what most Discord servers require, unless it's your own personal one. You can do what you want. But that's the basics. I don't want to make this video too long. I hope this helps a little bit. It's one of those things that kind of goes with the territory when you're actually using a gaming system where it requires you to communicate. So hopefully this helps a little bit. I'm not expecting you to remember all that stuff, but it is helpful to have those sort of tips, and you'll know where to look. So to review really quick, you go down to the settings, you check your voice and video settings, and you can set your push to talk there. And then your notifications, you can turn those off if you don't want to be annoyed. And then also you can mute an entire server on the left-hand side. So if I right-click on the Fantasy Grounds Academy, I can go ahead and hide muted channels that you've muted yourself. You can go into server settings, and then you can actually go into the privacy settings. Your privacy settings will allow you to turn off direct messages or activity status. This is something that is kind of up to you for your privacy. So you can change all kinds of different settings for all different types of servers. So there are the overview ones, the ones that work all across Discord no matter where you go. And then there's server specific settings that you can set for yourself so you're not going crazy. And you can mute or make some channels kind of fade out so they're not as prominent. That way you're not going to go crazy when you're playing or using it. So just play around with it. Take some time with it. It's going to take you a while to kind of get used to it. It's normal. It's one of those things where you have to put a little time into it till it starts, getting more familiar. And like I said, if you don't need to, don't put it on your phone. So take care, everyone. Have a good afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your week. It's almost Friday. Bye-bye.